If I had to point to one, it would be how unique every church and organization is, and how unique every leader is. And that's the holy work. We talk about our values being spirit led because God's leading the process, and we're innovative, relational, determined, winsome. We want you to enjoy the journey with any of our people. But it's when God aligns the mission and the unique wiring of the leader with the vision and mission of the organization, there's nothing better than that.
Hey guys, Frank here with another episode of Modern Church Leader. Super excited about today. Actually, a guest that we've not had a guest like this on the show yet. So super excited to have this conversation. I'm joined by Mr. Tim Foote. Did I say that last name the right way?
You did indeed. It's a hard one to get wrong, Frank.
I mean, it is, but sometimes last names, you say it in a way that doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying?
And it's actually spelt, for your listeners, it's spelt the right way.
It
No
is.
offense to people spelt the other way. There's no E on the end of foot.
Yeah, it's just F-O-O-T. So Tim Foote, CEO.
I don't have two first names. Do you ever get that? Like
I
people
get
mix
it all
that
the time.
up, and
All
I'm
the
sure
time. They
that's
call
annoying.
me Barry. Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole thing.
Sorry, mate.
You just roll with it when it starts happening.
Sorry on behalf of humanity.
Well, Tim, it's great to have you on, and you're the CEO of the Slingshot Group. And would you describe you guys as like you're a staffing agency for churches?
We would say basically what we do and why we do it is we build remarkable teams and healthy culture through staffing and coaching. So coaching, Frank, is a huge part of what we do. And as we staff, there's a ton of coaching embedded and involved in the whole process. We do individual coaching, but it's all in order to build healthy teams, remarkable teams, and healthy culture.
Yeah. And you guys, obviously, you're on the show and we focus on churches. So you do that for churches, but you do it for nonprofits. And
Correct.
Do you go outside of the church and nonprofit space at all and go into the for-profit world?
Now and then we'll serve a faith-forward or faith-focused for-profit company that aligns with who we are, but mainly it's church and nonprofit.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, tell everyone a little bit about your journey into becoming the CEO there.
So for me, I've been with Slingshot now for I'm in my 12th year, and came on board when we were just a handful of associates with a handful of coaching and staffing engagements, and took over the worship arts division. And that was my ministry focus area back then, and watched that grow with an amazing team, from being worship arts to experience, which covered production, worship, digital marketing, communications. So that grew into the experience division. And then as my ministry trajectory changed and my leadership continued to evolve, I moved into leading our senior leadership division. And then nonprofit came and camped out with us during the pandemic for various reasons. And then January 1st of this year stepped into the CEO role. So it's been amazing to watch it grow from a handful to now over 60 team members nationwide. And we're serving close to 400 organizations a year.
Wow, that's super cool. Now, you're obviously not from the U.S.
No, I'm not.
And I got it wrong when I guessed, which is really sad because, one of my best buds is Australian, but you're from Australia.
I am Australian. And I think if I'd been talking for a little longer, you would have gotten it.
I might have.
I'd give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. But yeah, moved from Australia, Tasmanian born and raised. Then I was in Sydney for nearly 10 years doing ministry and actually music business work. And then moved to the Denver area in 2002 to be on the exec team and worship pastor at a church called LifeBridge Christian Church in Longmont, Colorado, which is Boulder County. Yeah. And that's still home church for me 20 years later. So my full-time and a half job, I say, is running Slingshot and leading that team, but I still get to be involved on a local church level, teaching, regularly, well, semi-regularly. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I say to people, I love keeping my fingers in the dirt of local church ministry because it's my first love.
yeah, yeah.
After Jesus and my family. Just get that in perspective.
100%. Yep.
Mm.
Jesus, wife, kids, got to
Right.
have it in the right order. So you moved to the US for the position at the church out there? Was that
Indeed.
the
Yes.
main reason for coming
Yeah.
out here? Because that's a big move. Like that's, you're making, it's like you're leaving your home for a long period of time
Leaving
and moving.
community, home, culture,
Yeah.
everything, and here I am 20 years later. So yeah, the lead pastor of LifeBridge, he's actually he transitioned a few years ago and is now on the exec leadership team at Glue, which you would know, big data company out of the Boulder area.
I was talking with Glue yesterday.
Who were you talking with from Glue?
Um, the head dude,
Scott Beck.
Mr. Beck. Yes.
So Rick Russo works closely with Scott, and
Okay.
Rick was then lead pastor of LifeBridge. Back in '99, he was at a conference, guest speaker. I was guest worship leader. We hit it off, stayed in touch. I was over here doing some other work. He said, "You need to come join the team here." I said, "No way."
Yeah.
And that went back and forth, and then God got involved, and his calling became evident, and the rest is history. But I ended up here in 2002
Yeah.
with my
Wow. And
wife.
stayed.
We've been married a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, kids, family, and did you bring more over with you? Like, what's it
Well,
look like
that's
now?
an interesting story. So my wife is British born, Australian raised, and now
See,
an
that's what
American
I picked
citizen
up
like
on the
me.
British part. Like, I think it's because your wife has influenced
Got
your
nothing
accent.
to do with it. God, no,
I think no, I
she
think that's
she doesn't have a British accent. She grew up in
oh
Melbourne,
darn.
Australia. She immigrated with her family to Melbourne when she was 3, so she has
Okay.
triple citizenship. So that's
That's
what's interesting about Mandy. Well, there's
that's
lots
impressive.
more that's interesting about Mandy, but triple citizenship is pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then we grew our family actually through adoption. And we adopted both of our boys, who are now 14 and 12, at birth.
Nice.
Their biological siblings, we adopted them 2 years apart from the south side of Chicago. And so we are quite the family because I'm from Tasmania. Mandy was born in the UK. Our boys are from the south side of Chicago, and we're all different colors and we all talk a little differently. And hopefully it's a bit of a picture of the kingdom.
Yeah, amen to that's cool. That's super cool. Well, I mean, let's jump in, right? We're it's fun getting to know you. So I guess we could
You
have that,
too,
and
Frank.
listeners can just listen to us ramble on.
Hopefully
Um,
they'll enjoy that.
yeah, but so on the kind of coaching and training and kind of leadership development, staffing for churches.
Mhm.
I mean, describe Slingshot a little bit more for folks so they have a maybe a better sense of how you guys are really helping, churches. And then I'd love maybe the tail end of that, how things have changed over the
Yeah.
last, 2+ years with pandemics and all the other stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. Our co-founders were good friends of mine before Slingshot even began, and the felt need was helping leaders stay longer in local church settings, walk more fully in their God-given calling, and then to help organizations stay on mission with people. We love to solve problems, and most of the time problems can be traced back to a person or the need for a person.
Mm,
And so if a person is on staff and needs to break through in any kind of way or needs to get better, we can come alongside. And then if a team needs a new leader to help grow culture, then we can come alongside and help find that leader. I think one of the unique things about our team is we're all practitioners or have been practitioners. And so we can add value every step of the way in the search process. And the coaching process. We don't want to just manage a process that a church or nonprofit could manage on their own.
hmm
We don't want to just save time, and it absolutely will save time and money. We want to bring value to that process. And so as we're coaching an individual leader or indeed a whole team, we want there to be added value with the associate that's working with that organization. And as we're looking for staff, we want there to be added value in that whole process, that we can bring expertise to the team, that we can really understand the unique culture of each church so that we can find the right leader that's the right match to help that team move forward. It's really interesting, Frank, because culture we're seeing is so important right now.
hmm
I think really been revealed even more throughout the last couple of years. If
When did Sorry, real quick, just like interject it. Like,
Yeah.
when do people come to someone like you guys for help? Like, when does a church realize, like, oh, I should kind of bring a third party in who has expertise in this area? And oftentimes churches kind of raise up leaders from within and then
Right.
move them around. I guess it just depends on, you might be in a network or in a denomination, and they have their own ways of staffing things.
Mm,
So you guys are, I guess I'm asking that because I think you guys are somewhat unique in the sense of, you're not in a denomination doing this thing or in a network. You're kind of this outside thing that people
mm,
can. Now it's normal in like the business world, right?
right.
There's all kinds of staffing stuff, but I just think it's interesting in the church. And how do people learn about you and realize, oh, I need somebody to come in and help me that would
Yeah.
make it better for me?
I think there's been a huge raising of awareness of the need to outsource staffing and coaching, to help a leader lift their eyes up in a local context by bringing in an outside voice that has a national view of the landscape of ministry, even international view, and
Hmm.
can help a leader think differently. I always struggle with the title consultant. I prefer coach, because consultant suggests that you're going to be prescriptive and tell somebody what to do. And I know
Yeah,
consultants don't always do that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we're all about curiosity and asking questions. I believe I can learn something from anybody I'm talking to, but we want to ask great questions that unleashes the unique leadership that God has placed in each leader and each team, so that when
Hmm.
we're doing the staffing process, we can ask the right questions to really understand culture in a way that we can go out and find the exact right leader to bring in to propel that team forward and to be a culture add.
Right.
And so, as you're talking about, when did this come about, or when do people become aware of it? I think now there's a felt need, because denominationally, people are hitting a wall. They can't find leaders. And then also just internally in a given church, even if you're not part of a denom, you don't have time to run your own staffing search anymore. I mean, there's
Hmm.
so many things now with the advancement of the digital age, and that we've been catapulted probably a decade in the last couple of years. There's so many things we have to do in ministry that it's actually not good stewardship, Frank, to be running our own search. We need to be about the work of ministry, and then
Right.
bringing in a team that is living and breathing this. And one of our biggest value adds is that we're going to connect you to potential candidates that you couldn't connect to on your own. And in our coaching, we're going to bring expertise from the outside, from our experience, that you can't see when you've got your head down in ministry every day.
Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned something about like people not being able to find leaders. I've heard that a few times over the last couple of years, that like finding great leaders, especially great young leaders, has become incredibly challenging
Yes.
as we've gone through, all of the political stuff and social stuff and the pandemic and masks and no masks, like just all of that stuff stacking up. Like young leaders are like running for the hills.
Hmm.
I've just heard that a few times, talking to like senior leaders of big churches. And I'm just wondering, give us your take on just staffing as we've gone through the pandemic and all of this, and what you're seeing there.
The church often will lag behind what's happening in the secular space and the market space. So we see that in times of recession. The church will often follow behind what you see is happening in
Mhm.
the secular marketplace. You mentioned that in the marketplace, they've outsourced search for years. Well, I
Yeah.
think the church is catching up now and seeing the value add of that. Anybody who picks up who logs onto a news website or picks up a newspaper, who does that anymore, will be reading about what's being called the Great Resignation or the Big Quit.
Yeah.
And I think the church
I
has
try
had,
not to watch the news anymore. I just
yeah,
like forget about it.
a good choice. When you got middle schoolers in your house, it's a really good choice. But yeah, I believe the church is catching up. I
Yeah.
think during the last couple of years in the pandemic, people have gotten new rhythms. They've set new priorities. But you
Mhm.
alluded to it. We had a culture crisis, and I think Gen Z and even some of the millennial generation are questioning the relevance of the church. And we're talking a lot internally with our team members about how do we tell a beautiful story about what it means to work on the front lines of ministry again.
Mhm.
But then I know lots of people are saying, what's the work for? What are all these workers doing? I mean, did they just disappear? Where have they gone? And I
Right.
think there are so many different. I think there are so many different ways now to earn a living that allow you to be
Yeah.
self-sufficient. I mean, we're seeing
Right.
crypto and we're seeing all kinds of things
They're
that
making
people
money
can.
doing, like, TikTok
Yes,
reels and Instagram stories and YouTube. Like, there's, like, people finding ways to make money all over the place, and
and
maybe they
what
don't need to make
generation?
as much money.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
they're okay making a little less just to live a great
Lifestyle.
lifestyle. Yep.
Yeah, it's lifestyle choices and the innovative way in which the younger generation are utilizing digital tools to make a living, and then also the church is competing with gosh. Walmart, who I saw an article recently, they're paying truck drivers 90 to 110,000 to drive a truck.
Right.
I've heard I think I heard a McDonald's in Midland, Texas, was paying $22 an hour to work at McDonald's. And
Yeah.
you've got a youth pastor who could see that as their mission field
Right.
and be able to shut off at the end of the day. That's not willing to work for what a church will pay anymore.
Right.
And so it's
Right.
like, how do we tell a beautiful story? I continue to say, Frank, that our work has never been more challenging, but never have we been more committed to it, and never has the church needed us more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. How do you find leaders? Like, how do you find the people when you're, I mean, I'm guessing, people put their resumes out there. And so there's the natural or
Mm.
maybe the easy stuff, right? That kind of comes your way. But, how do you source great talent for the church
Well, I would
and
say
figure out that they're great talent?
so. The first way is my favorite way, and that is just good old fashioned hustle. And I mean, that's why I love this work to begin with.
Yeah.
Is it's like being a journalist and sniffing out the story. That's why we have over 60 ministry practitioners across the country who have developed networks. And we always say, you get one of us, you get all of us. We leverage our
Right.
collective networks
Yeah.
to turn over every rock to sensitively find the right leader, because we do not poach. We're not going to go after people that are involved in vibrant ministry and are sure of their call, but we're absolutely going to talk to people in our network to say, we love this church or nonprofit we're working with. The profile we're looking is so similar to yours. We do not want to get in the way with what God's doing, but we would love you to help us find the right leader for this role if you know of somebody
Right.
in your network. So I think for us, the number one is good old fashioned hustle
Yeah.
and really getting after our networks. But also, now we've been doing this nearly 15 years, and I think we're in our 15th year. So we've been doing it as long as anybody, and now we've got such a developed job board that the great leaders are hitting that page more than any other page on our website,
Okay. Yeah.
probably more than standalone staffing web pages, because they know that churches that are growing and are healthy are outsourcing search.
Yeah.
So they're also coming to us, and it's general top of mind awareness. We really focus deeply on our candidate care and our leader care. So we've got a whole division that looks after and develops people that come to us and say, we sense the Holy Spirit is leading us somewhere new. We need you to help us navigate that. We
Hmm.
see Slingshot as safe harbor. Can you help develop us and walk the journey with us? So really, I mean, those are the three main tributaries, if you like,
Yeah.
into the pool of talented leaders. It's our network and our ministry practitioners and hustle, and then it's our job board and the awareness of that, and then it's our general database, which has thousands and thousands and thousands of people in it. But
Right. Right.
I mean, every place is unique, Frank. So that there's only probably 3 to 5 leaders when you take all the filters on any given role,
Yeah.
calling chemistry, all of the C's and all of that. When you put all of that in place, it really filters it down to just a few people, and
Yeah.
that's our job is to do the legwork and move the rock to make to get to those people.
Right. Right. I mean, you've been there 15 years. What's one of the biggest like learnings from 15 years of, getting the right people in the right roles in the church? Like, do
Hmm.
you have something where like, man, this is the key to the whole thing, or what? This is one of the biggest things I've learned over 15 years of doing this job.
So it's interesting, and just to clarify, for me, it's coming up 12, but
12.
I
Okay.
was connected to our founders when they started it, and I got to admit, when I remember when they started it, thinking, "Is this gonna work?" And now I'm dedicating my life to it.
Yeah.
But seriously, Frank, there are so many learnings, and if I had to point to one, it would be how unique every church and organization is, and
Yeah.
how unique every leader is. And that's the holy work. We talk about our values being spirit led because God's leading the process, and
Hmm.
we're innovative, relational, determined, winsome. We want you to enjoy the journey with any of our people. But it's when God aligns the mission and the unique wiring of the leader with the vision and mission of the organization,
Yeah.
there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. And you see it somehow, like
Oh,
somewhere along the journey, right?
oh,
Like, is that kind of like
yes.
you'll notice, like, oh, there's a fit here. I can
Oh,
like see
totally.
it
And
happening in front of me.
and don't get me wrong, this is messy work.
Yeah.
And I always say to anybody considering us as a partner for coaching or staffing, yes, there are other groups doing this. There aren't many that have done it a long time, but align with the group that matches who you are,
Hmm.
because this is messy, honest work.
Yeah.
And our one of our big commitments is, when it gets messy, usually when, not if, but when it gets messy, we're always going to lean in. We're going to do the right
Yeah.
thing. We're going to take the high road. We're going to come alongside you. We're going to be in it with you. But there is that moment when you see breakthrough with coaching, and you see connection with a leader and a search team, or a hiring manager, and you go, I can see God's fingerprints all over this. And then when
Yeah.
you hear stories, I mean, when you've been around for 15 years, like we have as a company, you hear the stories now of long-term ministry that's happened,
Hmm.
and multiple leadership placements or multiple coaching journeys at the same church or the same nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah. You
nothing
do it
better than hearing those stories.
right. They like you help them with somebody, it just goes amazing. And then next time they need the next person, they're going to come back to you guys because you really helped them find the right fit.
Right.
Is
Right.
there something that you do in the process of trying to find that right connection? Like the right question isn't like what's an interview question you ask them, but maybe like is there some kind of thing that you're doing in the process that really helps you identify the right person for the right job?
We have a proprietary form of coaching called improv leadership, and there's a bunch of steps or competencies in that. We call it, stepping stones to healthy culture or healthy leadership, and we draw upon those a lot. But
Hmm.
there's things like story mining, which is when we really dig deeply into a person's story, because that really informs their leadership. It's like when we're working with an organization, Frank, and our big question to an organization is, who are you?
Right.
Because who you are determines function. It
Do,
determines direction.
do
It
you help
determines
them
the
like
makeup of the
identify their own like core values in a sense? Like, is that kind of what you're
absolutely.
part of what
Yeah.
you do? Like helping a person realize like these are the things that
Yeah,
or
we'll do
super.
health assessments, team assessments. We do a discovery visit, which is probably not as deep a dive as some of those coaching engagements. But all of it is about getting to know the organization and then getting to know each particular leader as well.
Hmm.
And then other competencies like lobbing forward on a leader when we're coaching or when we're talking in the interview process. And that is basically helping them see beyond about what is possible and opening their eyes to that kind of
Right.
thing. And then pulling out their strengths too and seeing how that could complement the culture and the direction of a given team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Like hiring the right people or finding the right people for the job it's like extremely important, right? Like
Yeah.
people that are kind of on the mission with you and excited about the work you're doing and fit culturally, like it's it's like mission critical to get, everybody on your team, if possible, to kind of check all those boxes and fit. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. Like
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work. And the bigger you get, like the more critical it is almost for that next person to fit well,
Yeah. And
So I mean, the work
it's
you do is big.
and thanks, Frank. And it's so critical to future growth, health, mission clarity of an
Yeah.
organization. But for me, it was a beautiful alignment of one, I just love people, and two, I love putting teams together.
Yeah.
And what anybody on our team, I think, would say at Slingshot is what they love most about our team is just the team culture.
Yeah.
And it's so important to invest in your people, invest in that culture. And then what we hope happens is that rubs off on any organization that we work with or any
Right.
leader that we're coaching.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Well, one last kind of normal question, then I want to hit some real rapid fire ones.
Right.
Um, like, have you had any situations like completely fail? And what'd you learn from it? Like placements that you're like, oh, this is perfect, but somehow something went wrong, and you don't have to share like who or where or whatever, but just stuff like that, like something that, man, this one didn't work, and what'd you pull out? What'd you learn from that?
So you know what the answer to that question is because we're in the people business.
Yeah, totally.
I always say we're in the
It's a
people business.
layup. It's
We're, we're not making widgets. But I would say there's no failures, even when the process has gone off the rails, or even when somebody didn't stay around, because you've got to believe that God's writing a bigger story.
yeah,
What is he revealing that needs to be addressed in the organization? What was he doing in the life of that leader? Or maybe that leader was meant to come for a shorter amount of time just to be a catalyst for some kind of change. Also, if there's an internal placement that happens, I always say to our team, we're doing the work we're doing because God is trusting us to be faithful to his ultimate story.
yeah,
Even when the organization mightn't be entirely satisfied with the outcome, as long as we're leaning fully into the story that God's writing and trusting that he's writing a bigger story. So yeah, we've had leaders implode when they got to a place, and we've been surprised, and the organization's been disappointed, and we've uh, re-engaged to find another leader, and that leader has been amazing. And
right,
they look back going, yeah, we see now that we needed to go through what we went through to get to this leader, and here's what we learned from the process. I think if there's a mismatch in chemistry between us and an organization, we miss that in
Mhm.
the exploration process, then that can get revealed. But all in all, Frank, we're learning what God is doing, and God works in any kind of messy situation.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that's very cool. Well, man, this is cool. You guys are doing amazing work, so it's been great to chat. I want to ask you a couple like quick rapid fire kind of questions
Yep.
to wrap us up. Hopefully, they're
Yep.
easy. Um, what's a book that you've read that everybody needs to read? It doesn't have to be recent. It could be any book ever, but something you've read that
I
you're
wonder if
just
you've
like,
heard this one before, The Tale of Three Kings by Gene Edwards.
so I know of the book. I've heard of the book, all the things, but no one's ever said it on the podcast that I can remember. I've done a lot of these.
Unbelievable leadership book.
Yeah,
Very
Tale of Three
formative for
Kings.
me.
Yep, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure I read that one in college. Um, but yeah, no one's brought it up on the show, so love
Mm.
it. Okay, second one. What's a podcast that you're listening to right now?
Masters
Doesn't
of
even
Scale.
doesn't have to be Christian. Okay, I always have.
Masters of Well, I immediately went to a non-Christian one. Masters of Scale.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That podcast is both really awesome and irritating at the same time to me.
Huh? Yeah.
Like something about the format of it, like, kind of gets me, but the guests and the content is like it's next level, right? In terms
And
of,
I'll give you two. You said I'm not allowed to give you two. I'm going to give you two,
you can
and
give me two. That's
neither of them are Christian. And so sorry about that. I'll usually listen to preachers rather than podcasts. But the second one is, and you said it, I find it better not to watch the news these days, especially when you got middle schools in the house.
yeah.
I love the Daily from the New York Times
Okay.
because I can look at what they're talking about. They dig into a subject and take 25 to 30 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really insightful if I'm on a drive somewhere just to dig
Yeah.
into a topic.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Okay, last thing, where can folks go to find out more about Slingshot Group and you if they want to connect with you personally?
Slingshotgroup.org. We would love to have you, and shoot us an email and we'll follow up. We love making new relationships.
Love it. Love it. Well, Tim, this has been great, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for spending some time. And everybody listening, go to slingshotgroup.org and check them out. And
Thanks, Frank.
yeah, we'll see you. I'm sure we'll have you on again someday. And
Love to be.
we'll talk about things in another year. But thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Modern Church Leader. Bye bye.